When it comes to some of these people, though, I think some of the drone strikes have probably been justified. Al Walkie, I think, was a traitor. This is not from looking at classified documents. This is just from reading the lay press. By all means, he gave up on his country, renounced his citizenship, went overseas, consorted, and aided the enemy. But one of the interesting questions about aiding the enemy is what exactly that means and what are the standards to be. Kevin Williamson writes for the National Review, and he wrote an article on drones that I think really brings this home. If you're going to talk about and want to know who are the people who could potentially be killed. Because in some ways, Al Walkie was a sympathizer, someone who aided and abetted by internet talk and chatter. That was the main thing he was accused of, actually. After the fact, they said he had more direct association. I don't know if that's true or not and haven't seen the secret information on that. But what I would say is that he was initially brought up as a sympathizer. And here's the problem. Many writers have said if you take up arms against your country, you're an enemy combatant. Well, I think that's true. If you're in Afghanistan, you got a grenade launcher on your shoulder and you're shooting at Americans, you are an enemy combatant. You don't get due process. But here's the question. If you're in Poughkeepsie and you're on the internet and you say, I sympathize with, some group around the world that doesn't like America, and you say bad things about America, are you a traitor? I mean, you can try someone for treason for that. I'm not sure if it'll rise up to that if you're politically opposed to what your government is doing and in favor of another. But Kevin Williamson gets it pretty clearly. He says, if sympathizing with our enemies and propagandizing on their behalf is equivalent to making war on our country, then the Johnson and Nixon administrations should have bombed every elite college in America. Because during the 1960s, that's all that came out was anti-America, anti-war. Is objecting to your government or objecting to the policy of your government sympathizing with the enemy? Some openly were sympathetic. No one will ever forget Jane Fonda swiveling around in North Vietnamese armored guns, and it was despicable. Now, it's one thing if you want to try her for treason, but are you going to just drop a drone Hellfire missile on Jane Fonda? Are you going to drop a Hellfire missile on those at Kent State? Our country objected to what happened at Kent State, which was, in some ways not, it was not good, but in some ways accidental since they were shooting over the heads of these people. But can you imagine, we've gone from a country who was rightfully upset about the deaths at Kent State to a country that now is going to say that if you're at your college and you're rabble-rousing because you don't like the government's foreign policy or the government's war actions, that you're sympathizing. See, there are a lot of questions that aren't being asked because sympathizing appears to be used as a standard for the drone strike program.